a lot of people don't want to do math. They just want to do the work, right? Like the simplicity of running, there's not a lot of metrics to think about, right? If you get a watch with a timer on it, that's about all people want to see. Add heart rate in and it's like, oh my gosh, now what? I hate training when the kids are up or when Lauren's up, because I never want to take away from time from them. I've seen assault bikes with crazy watts versus someone else with less watts, same RPM average. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I've never found consistency. So basically, if you want to compete with someone on the assault bike, it has to be the exact same bike.
All right, Justin, we're live. How you doing, buddy?
I'm okay, even though I just gave you the spiel of why today's been hectic, but
yeah, crazy morning on your end so far. I'm glad we're finally able to do this. I've been wanting to chat with you on the podcast since the summer, but
yeah, I feel like we've been playing tag for a while now at this, but yeah, thanks for having me on. Finally,
it's great, man.
It finally worked out. I was worried yesterday because we were supposed to do this yesterday, and I got so wrapped up in reorganizing tools and materials and stuff downstairs that I went upstairs, I looked at my phone, I saw "Ready When You Are" from you. I was like, oh my gosh, this is 30 minutes ago. My wife's like, you missed your thing. It's like, yeah, but so I appreciate rescheduling. I'm glad we got this in before the end of the year.
Exactly. 24 hours later, we're back at it. So for those who don't know you yet, can you talk a little bit about you, who you are and what you do?
Sure. Justin Farina. I am nearly 39 years old. I am the coach and owner, I guess, of Garage Athlete. It's my fun hobby job, and I'm a full-time high school phys ed teacher officially. So that's job number one. Married 12 years, 3 young boys, 10, 8, and 3 who keep me hopping. And that's basically it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today: CrossFit, all the Ergs programming, training around family time and work time. But I want to start with the first question for you being, how did you initially find CrossFit, and what did you think of it when you first came across it?
Great question. So leading up, I found CrossFit in 2005. So I've known about it for a while.
Early.
Yeah, I guess. Compared to people now. I had been working out with a buddy of mine, Russell, at a local gym, and doing typical like Men's Health magazine splits. Getting into supersets, read an article about Tabatas. So like, well, we should do these Tabata interval. Just finding things that looked interesting, because we're both athletes growing up. And this is how old are we at this point? 23, so early 20s. Doing cool supersets, taking a pressing exercise with a pulling exercise. So learning about balancing movement patterns and stuff, and we had fun with it, and we were competitive in the gym sense that, oh, you're benching the 70-pound dumbbells, well, I'm going to do the 75s, just like typical buddy training with each other sort of stuff. We'd go for runs together, and we'd hit the track and do repeats and stuff. So that was kind of our training. And then in 2005, I think the November issue of Men's Journal had the 50 best fitness websites of that year. I'm pissed because I had this magazine. I've kept it. I don't know where it is. Like when we moved to this house, I don't know what happened to it. I should have framed it years ago. But anyways, the number 2, The Rock was on the cover, which is why I got the magazine, obviously at that time. The number 2 website was CrossFit.com. And
what was number 1? Do you remember?
Don't quote me, but I think T Nation.
Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was.
That would make sense CrossFit, around that time. Yeah.
So the blurb with it, like the little description was, a typical workout looks like this: run 1 mile, do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and run 1
Murph,
mile.
Murph
Oh,
is
and if
typical
you,
workout.
yeah, and if you have it, wear a 20-pound weight vest.
Oh,
And I'm
geez.
literally reading this magazine like in my room, or heck, I might have been in the bathroom. I don't know, and I'm like, what is this craziness? Who's doing 100 pull-ups, and what is a weight vest? And yeah, like looking back now, of course they choose like the signature benchmark hero wad that is very challenging. So I literally went on the website and I'm scrolling around, and all I see is this, like, it looks like a blog at this time. Like the old website was that old blog format, and it's like workout, rest day. And I'm scrolling and there's workouts. I'm like, how is this free? Like, what is going on here? And I click over, and there's the What is Fitness journal article. And as an exercise science major in university, literally I'm reading it, and they're talking about how no one can define it. And I'm thinking to myself, well, heck, I can't even off the top of my head right now either. And I found that really interesting. And I read that article quick because I was, fairly fresh out of university, and this was my field of study. And Glassman's saying all this stuff that's really starting to, like, when you hear something, you're like, oh, I've never thought of it like that. Or, oh, that's a really interesting twist. I've never really considered that.
Yeah.
And it sort of challenges everything you thought you knew about a topic. So that's kind of how I felt when I read this article. And I call up Russ. I'm like, hey, go to this website, like, put this in. And the workout for the following day was, I think they still do this, where you can choose Cindy or Mary.
Okay.
So Cindy is, 20-minute AMRAP of 5 pull-up, 10 push-up, 15 air squat. And Mary was 5 handstand push-up, 10 alternating pistols. No, 5 handstand push-up, 10 alternating pistols, and 15 pull-ups. So we were both like, well, let's try this. We clearly can't do Mary, so let's try Cindy. And that was that next day, that was our first CrossFit workout. I think we managed maybe 12 or 13 rounds. We're completely smoked. Didn't touch a weight, obviously, because it's all body weight stuff. And literally we're on the floor and look at each other like, I wonder what tomorrow will be. Like, it was nice to have something different, really challenging, obviously easily competitive, because it's just naturally, built in that way. And I think the next day was deadlifts, like 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Right. I remember those.
And like anybody else, we're like, so is that all we do? We just deadlift? So we worked up to heavy singles, and that was it. And there was a rest day, and we were like hooked. Like, this is great. We don't have to think. We're going to bed at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, waiting for the workout is, and pressing refresh, and getting into the message boards. And at the time, I think Chris Spieler was fairly frequent on there, and OPT James Fitzgerald was on there. Like, this was when, obviously pre-games. I'm trying to think of who else was like. Josh Everett was kind of in a lot of the videos. Those early, got to download on Windows Media Player videos before.
Yeah, that message board was great, though. I remember it. I wasn't in there as early as you were, but I remember going on there and spending some time, and there were some really good threads and people sharing what they were doing, and it was really interesting stuff, man. It was, like you said, like kind of paradigm shift for a lot of people, and kind of a new way of seeing things, and it was interesting times for sure.
It really opened me up to a lot more like training in sport disciplines. And immediate regret, because obviously weightlifting is a major component of CrossFit. We have in our town, and it was a family friend of ours, he was like a nationally ranked weightlifter in his youth, and a master's weightlifter, and like a world, he's a judge at a lot of world competitions. And at one point when I was growing up, because I was a baseball player, high school going into college, and he had offered like, hey, why don't you come by the garage and I'll show you some things. I was like 17 or 18. And he was saying how, doing some weightlifting would help with your explosiveness and range of motion flexibility, especially with you being a dynamic athlete. And I was like, okay, I don't think I can make it. Like I basically said no, and huge regret, like looking back, having spent time in his garage learning those lifts from him
Yeah.
would have been invaluable to me. So, hindsight's 2020, but, if you're listening and you're young, don't turn down opportunities to learn, things like this. But again, at the time, I had no idea what weightlifting was. I wasn't even sure what he was talking about, nor did I look into it. It's not like it was a time you could like Google things and figure things out, So anyways, that was kind of a sad point in that. But yeah, absolute paradigm shift in terms of how to, what a workout could look like and what sort of stimulus it could offer you.
And
Yeah.
how did you go from, it might be a long road to cover in a few sentences, but how did you go from that time of finding CrossFit to where you are now and what you're doing? Maybe talk about what your training looks like today and how it's evolved since the days that you found CrossFit.
All right. Where to start? So I guess fast forward a decade from when I found it. So I guess 2015, maybe 2016. And this is where obviously the CrossFit Games are a lot more popular and growing at this time, and the internet is big. And I would obviously, following different CrossFit athletes, you started to get a sense of what, window into their training, how they structure their programs, who they're leaning on as a coach. And at that point, Cam Nickel, from Great Britain rower, Olympian, now a doctor, he had started rowing WOD.
I remember.
And
that,
I saw it because Sarah Sigmund's daughter, I think, got involved in it, and she may have posted about, working with him, just a quote, and I thought, okay, this is interesting. And he started offering rowing specific workouts like 3 days a week to help you improve at CrossFit, but obviously learning about indoor rowing. And I had a rower in my garage. I used it occasionally for calorie workouts, or I remember when I first got it early on.
Is it the first Erg you got?
Yeah.
The rower?
Yeah. In 2008, I got one used for like $800 Canadian. I still have it. Where is she? She's over there. But I remember rowing a 10K like in the dark, and it took me forever, maybe like 48 minutes. And I hated every second, and it was so uncomfortable. But I've obviously come a long way since then. So 2015, whatever, I don't know what year it was. It might have been 2016. But anyways, rowing WOD, 3 rowing specific workouts a week. And it was the first time I saw rowing structured in such a way that you were looking at stroke rate, average pace, controlling, and this is his big thing, like, learning how to control your speed with rate. So this understanding of rowing at a certain cadence or certain strokes per minute should then be, a certain speed window or whatever, at that time relative to your 2K pace is whatever time, depending on your rate. So this was a new concept, this concept of rowing at a rhythm and a cadence and trying to hold a specific pace throughout, and then seeing how that pace changes as your rate changes. And a lot of his workouts were rate restricted, with specific pace targets, and then over time, obviously with any progression, you're going to see improvement. And 6 weeks later, I was like, this is amazing. Like I enjoyed rowing. It was the first time I've done like a dedicated like aerobic program in my life. I did track in high school, but I was a thrower. Like I was throwing shot and discus.
Right.
And like I was eating burgers while the girls were running by, like doing the cool down laps, just shooting me evil looks. So I was never doing, and even in like growing up playing hockey, I didn't like power skating, which is basically what this was, right? Hard intervals and laps and whatnot. But so for the first time, I'm seeing like structured aerobic workouts on the rower.
Mm.
And I was really hooked. And I think it was a combination of having specific targets and just those, like that tangible data of the monitor, and really understanding the power of that monitor at that time was a huge game changer.
Mm.
And kind of like when I first discovered CrossFit, I'm telling friends like, hey, this is great. So I'm telling them like, hey, have you ever looked at your stroke rate? And people are like, what are you talking about? So that was a real game changer. And from there, doing that program, he had his first year was free.
Mm.
I think just getting his name out there and putting these workouts up. So I followed, I think, the first 2 or 3 programs that he put out, and I loved it. And then he even did a CrossFit Open specific prep that kind of combined, this is a time when I think and still to this day, the only equipment in open workouts is a rower. Like, I think it's the one you need. I don't think they've done bikes yet. Not that it wouldn't work, but if you've done the open, the rower is something you need to have.
Yep.
And he had these nasty little couplets and triplets with the rowing machine that I ate up. I thought they were fun. So from there, I just kind of kept rowing. And this is when I discovered the Instagram world of indoor rowing and everyone's screenshots. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I can see what all these people around the world are doing,
A lot of screenshots. It's actually pretty cool. I actually love that. When I was rowing a lot, actually following your program for quite a while, but
yeah,
it's probably, and that includes the Instagram and your Facebook group that we'll talk about a little bit later, but probably the most positive communities I've been a part of so far in terms of sports.
Oh, the Concept 2 community is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how everybody's really supporting each other. And what's interesting is, like you said, you have that monitor, you have the data right there, and everybody is just rowing relative to their own 2K pace or whatever program they're doing. And so you can cheer everybody on, and you don't have to, obviously you compare yourself to what the other, boys and girls are putting up there, but it's always in good spirit because you know what they're doing relative to their own, kind of frame. So I found it really, really interesting in that regard.
Yeah. In the one part of the community I haven't experienced yet is like the live race community.
Right.
Like where all of these online people, go and meet up and hang out and then race and then, hang out again. At this point in my life, I've just never been able to get, like, even to the Canadians, which is only a 3-hour drive down the road. Like, it's not far enough away that I can't make it, considering people fly all over the place to go to these things. But with young kids, I've never been able to justify to myself spending some money and driving, 3 hours there and 3 hours back to row for 6 or 7 minutes when
probably 6.
I could do it in my house.
For you, it's probably 6.
Well, not right now. Maybe 6 low if I'm lucky. But the fact that there's a lot of virtual stuff, makes competing in your garage and at home, especially now, a lot easier. So, but yeah, that was kind of that program in CAM really jump-started where I'm at today. And, that kind of leapfrogged into, again, finding the online community and, utilizing the logbook and those competitions, and then jumping on to the cross team challenge teams and workouts. And then, the focus shifted online for me as a coach before we had our third child. This is the condensed version of the story. We had a garage gym that we then partnered with someone and chose to move to a facility because we were kind of busting out the seams and a lot of interest. And there's another gym that was looking to expand. So I kind of jumped on that. We had combined. And then a few months later, we realized bad business decision on our part because we did not vet this fella very good. And he ended up screwing us over pretty good. So we left that in a matter of months.
Right.
And, with that, obviously, we had this weird transition where we weren't having people come here because, most of our gear ended up at the new space.
Mm-hmm.
So I still had a few people coming here privately. And then I finally, told my wife, like, hey, Lauren, I'm going to just build a website and I'm going to start to run some online program, just see what happens. It was like, Squarespace website, which I still use. And I think it cost maybe $400 to start up, get the name and get the website done. And, she's rolling her eyes thinking, okay, fine. Like, we're not out that much money. If it, 20, hold on, this is our 4th year online. So what, 2017 then?
Yeah.
Yeah, in May. And
what was the first program you wrote?
Oh gosh. Well, we had like a few people from my town and a few people I knew like in the online community. I think we started with like 6 people that first month. And it was just rowing. I didn't have a Skierg yet. I don't think, see, my memory's terrible. I may have had the Skierg then, but I think I got it later that year. But anyways, it was basically just rowing and some GPP workouts.
Yeah.
Like if you know what our program looks like now, there's a lot of sections, there's a lot of options, there's a lot of progressions, and a lot gets posted every week. At that time, it was like 6 rectangles, just 6 things. Yeah. There's basically nothing. And then from that, I think in June, we may have doubled. It picked up quick enough where like my wife said, okay, this wasn't a bad idea, especially because we didn't have anyone really coming anymore. And River was born that year in June. So to be able to transition from having a few people here at our house to working with people online, it was great. It was a great call. It was the right call. And, it's really grown. And, we've been fortunate to expand our program to include the Skierg and the bike and fan bikes and a lot of GPP stuff. We've started to play with some running specific things as well. So I got to convince the wife if I can get a, one of those fun motorless treadmills for in here. Right. So I can start the program for that because I don't know how many people have access to tracks.
Right.
So it's really expanded, and in a year where a lot of people are looking for guidance at home, and a year where the wait list for Concept 2 machines are like a few months.
Right.
It's a nice spot to be able to help people that are looking for some guidance.
Yeah, it's
at home right now.
I remember when I hopped on, I just started. I always knew what the rower was. I think back in the day, I must have pulled like a 650 or something like that, 640. I think quite a while ago, and then using your programming for not quite a year, but almost, I got down to a 621 and something. That was
pretty fast
during a competition in Canada. And it was great to, like I said before, the Facebook group that you run. I think there was, at the time when I joined, there was over 100 people on there, and everybody, kind of following their own lane, doing either rowing workouts, some mixing up with some skis, some doing the bike, some doing the GPP, but everybody sharing their stuff, and you could, kind of cheer everybody on. And I really, really enjoyed the metrics, just having the data and just being able to say, this is my 1K, 2K, 3K, 6K, 5K, 10K, whatever you do.
Yeah.
And the ability to kind of switch focus and be like, okay, it's almost like I want to say CrossFit in a nutshell, but around the Ergs, in the sense that you could always work on something and improve a little bit.
Yep.
If maybe I don't know if a given distance is not in the cards for that week, maybe you can try something a little bit different that you haven't tested in a long time, and that can come along nicely. Maybe following up with another question here, what are the biggest mistakes that you see people make when they start following one of your programs, whether it's rowing, skiing, or other? Where do people get blocked usually?
I think so. And this might partially be on me. I think people will sometimes, they'll get so bogged down by the options. Like in a typical week, when you have, in a let's say a specific progression, you have 8 rowing workouts to choose from. What do I choose? Where do I start? What do I do on this day? And the people that have a training background don't find issue with that, because they understand balancing intensity and know how to balance their week. And people that come from an aerobic background understand the sort of same things. People that don't ask questions or don't engage in that amazing community that we have tend to just get so overwhelmed they just don't do it. And I think that that might be more on me to be better about checking in with new members more than I do, or it's just a matter of people don't be afraid to ask questions, because it's written, it's in the literature, it's in the FAQs and all that. And I'm very quick to respond to people. I always have been. So I think that just getting overwhelmed by it, and most people need to realize that first, it doesn't really matter. Like, right. You just need to pick something and start. Like, pick 3. Even the ones that you like the most. Like, it doesn't even have to be balanced at this point. Just get started. Get your feet wet. That's probably the toughest thing to overcome, is just that feeling of being overwhelmed, because those monitors are overwhelming if you don't know what you're seeing. Right? That's a lot of numbers flashing at you, and 2K paces, and there's math involved, and a lot of people don't want to do math. They just want to do the work, right? Like the simplicity of running, there's not a lot of metrics to think about, right? If you get a watch with a timer on it, that's about all people want to see. Add heart rate in, and it's like, oh my gosh, now what? Got all this data thrown at me. So I think people just need to take a breath, slow down, and at first just start moving. And if you're not sure what something means, just ask. Like, you've been in the community, and we're fortunate we have like 150 people right now.
Nice.
And they're all great, and they're all really quick to offer advice. Like, half the time I'm like the 6th or 7th person to answer a question, and sometimes I don't even, because like I'm just gonna regurgitate what other people have said. So the community has grown, and it takes care of itself, and it's a great group of like-minded people who all have fell in love the same way you did, with some numbers on a screen while doing cardio at home. Like, I've said to my wife, if running wasn't so uncomfortable and there was a monitor, I'd probably do it, which is why I'd be probably more likely to do, treadmill running workouts.
Yeah. I don't know if I would call rowing comfortable, though.
It can be, though, I think.
Well, yeah, depending on the paces that you hold. I wanted to come back to that.
But that's true for anything. Yeah. Running's comfortable if you're going slow enough.
True.
But go ahead and push a 5K. How does that feel?
Yeah, not great.
Or do 400-meter repeats. Who's going to do that? So
yeah, I think one big mistake that I made looking back on when I trained was that the slow stuff, I didn't do it slow enough. I was if it was a plus 18 to 20 seconds, I was always doing like 18,
plus 16,
18, creeping 17 and 16 on the on the last 5 minutes on the like a 30-20. For those who are not familiar, it's 30 minutes at rate 20 on the rower, which is a very kind of classic session. And
you can do that easy. You can also make that hurt, right?
Exactly. And I was very, very, very often on the side of probably a little bit too intense. And looking back, I think I probably would have gotten more out of it had I polarized my training a little bit more and just, gotten, that extra 5 or 10% on the really big ones and really let off the
Yeah.
gas a little bit on the slower, longer ones.
Yeah. And you train a lot, and that would have contributed to that. And, looking back, you're probably right. And I'm guilty of it. When I was doing, all the ergs all the time and trying to do strength training and pushing those paces, oh man, I fell apart.
What's the
The
most you
more,
train in terms of weekly volume? And at that point of, maybe talk about that a little bit. Talk about, doing too much and what the consequences were in terms of the training, performance, health, all those things.
um, I was trying to do, so again, when I was training heavy a few years ago, this was like pre-baby and early in baby's life, when I could still wake up, early in the morning. I was getting up at like 4:30 to train at 5 before work and before everyone would wake up.
Right.
Like that was my time. I'd give myself, hour and a half, 2 hours to, have some coffee, get some work in, and then, get my life prepped and make breakfast for everyone as everyone got up. And I was out the door, at like 7:30 or whatever. And then being a phys ed teacher, on prep or at lunch, might go in and do something for 10 or 15 minutes, weights or with my fitness class. And then oftentimes after we put the, baby to sleep and the kids were winding down, I'd hop on the bike for 30 or 40 minutes. So I was doing multiples, 2, 3 a days, if I could squeeze it in. And this was more, this was a combination of managing stress and, venting stress and in dealing with life. And I found the rhythm of the ergs and the training to be hypnotic at times and very much an outlet for everything that was going on. But I would find that, every few weeks I'd start to break down a bit and would get, I wouldn't say I'd get sick, but just the mental fatigue.
Like run down.
Really, yeah. Yep, exactly. So kind of like you, looking back, would have been smart to do a lot more slow stuff in between. Because really, like, the more often you train, the more you need those longer, steadier, truly aerobic pieces.
Yeah,
right?
true. Like I did one today I just started your biker program back up again. And it was an easy session. It was the 6 times 5 minutes on 2.5 rest. And I sweat 1 drop from my nose on the 6th interval, and that's it.
There it is.
Barely sweating, not even breathing. My legs were there, and that was the session. But I kept it at the high end. I kept it at the plus 20, and I didn't budge. I didn't try to get a second or two, just to really try and respect that. Go hard when it's time to go hard, and go slow when it's time to go slow. And I feel like it's one of those sessions you come out, and had I done a session like this 2 years ago, I probably would have said to myself, that wasn't enough. I need to do more, but looking back now and with the experience of the past years. Yeah.
Yeah. You felt good though after?
Yeah. Felt great. Felt fantastic.
Didn't feel beat up. You're probably looking forward to your next session.
Exactly. And that's how you should feel, right? If your low days make you feel like, oh shit, that was like a 7 out of 10. Well,
exactly.
That probably wasn't.
You don't want to get off those long ones and dread what's coming, right? You want to feel like that was good. It's what I needed. I'm ready for tomorrow's repeat sprints or whatever it is.
If everything went according to plan on, say, the family life, work life, what would be your ideal training schedule on a week?
With work?
Yeah, let's say with work. Let's make it realistic.
Without work? Oh man. No kids? No family? 4 a day? No. Ideal. I didn't mind the early mornings. I liked the quiet. I liked having that time to myself. And I liked having time that wasn't interfering with family life. I hate training when the kids are up or when Lauren's up, because I never want to take away from time from them. And even though we do our thing separately, like she's into yoga and Reiki and all this stuff, and she has practice that she wants to get in during the day, and obviously she's limited because she's as the mom for, in our family, we're both primary caretakers, but she's big P primary, right? The kids depend on her, obviously, but she needs that time to herself too. And she doesn't get it as often as I do, especially when I'm working during the week. Like I'm away for hours at a time, and she homeschools her kids. So like they're home with her all day. So she needs that break before dinner. So, obviously if I could train early, which I just can't right now, I'd probably be up early again, and that 5 to 7 a.m. block for work. And then I'd be fine. And then, if I get home after work and the kids, now they're getting a little older, like to play out here in the gym. If we do little fun circuits together, that'd be great. As they get older, I will likely add in something in the early evening, once they're at an age where they can sort of do their own thing and they're not dependent on us for like, Dad, I need a snack or my water, blah, blah, blah. We're just kind of like, okay, hold on. I'll be right there.
A bit more independent. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I might add in some stuff. Now, this is all dependent on the health of my body, which right now is not in a good place.
How's that going?
I've had SI joint issues on my right side since high school. I think being a throwing athlete, javelin and discus and shot put and throwing a baseball, all rotating in that same direction. Yeah. And I was a left-handed at hockey, so shooting that way. Tennis, same thing. I clearly have some issues that over time have developed, and every once in a while, I'll feel that right side lock up. And I've never had issues while rowing. I've never had issues, thankfully, on the Skierg either, but there's no extension there. But deadlifts sometimes present issues. And a few days ago, doing box jumps, and I don't do rebound box jumps. I do step down because I don't want to blow an Achilles, right? I'm not trying to go super fast on those. Right. I'm working on the jump part. But I landed on the box and I just felt, I didn't land like too stiff either, I didn't think. And it was like the second round of a workout. And like 2 or 3 box jumps in, I hit and I just felt my back. I just felt that right side lock up and I was like, oh, there it goes. That's it for a few more days.
Yeah. What's your strategy when something like this happens? Cause I think it's common, right? Anybody who trains frequently enough, things like this are going to happen one day or another. So when that happens in the middle of a workout,
as I stretch.
So yeah, what do you do?
Oh, in the middle of the workout?
In the middle of do you stop? Do you finish?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I texted Lauren and said, my back's out. I didn't keep going. I wanted to, cause the boys were out here. I had set up Isaiah. He's our middle. He's 8. I set up a little circuit for him, and River was playing around too, hanging from his rings and stuff. So I was like motivated. I don't do CrossFit workouts very often anymore. A couple times a week, if the time presents itself. And I was like, this is a perfect time to do this, and kind of warmed up a bit, and there it goes. So it was frustrating, but I wouldn't keep going. I definitely wouldn't push it. I'm not rowing until I feel normal again. I'm basically not doing anything that requires extension. Although, I mean, picking and moving groceries and cleaning up tools isn't exactly good for me, but that stuff's got to happen.
Do you keep training in those following days and just modify things so you, for example, ski or bike or do something that's not going to pause any
If it's comfortable, I'll do it. And I'll do it at an intensity that's comfortable. If I feel anything, I'm not doing that.
Is that what you recommend to people usually? Is if anything happens and you have the option to do something else, don't just do nothing and do.
If you
something.
are okay with resting fully, and that's what you think you need, do that. If I could see a chiropractor right now, I'd be there, but I'm not dealing with, quarantine, lockdown chiropractic visits. I don't even know if they're open, to be honest. But yeah, like if you are similar in the fact that your training is an outlet and it's something that's a big part of your life, and you enjoy that time, and exercise is important, people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're fortunate to have options. Like I have a lot of toys in here. Do what feels okay. Like the bike erg isn't very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, the Echo bike is.
Right.
I don't know if it's just position, because I can be a little bit more upright, can use my arms more and sort of take pressure off the back.
Today's episode is sponsored by Strength Coach Network, the #1 education and networking platform for strength and conditioning coaches. Strength Coach Network offers over 200 hours of video education delivered by elite level presenters such as Dan Pfaff, Jada Mayo, Derek Hansen, Carl Dietz, and Buddy Morris. If you work with or want to work with team sport athletes and take your coaching to the next level, you will find everything you need to know on topics such as speed development, plyometric training, conditioning, rehab, program design, and much, much more. Strength Coach Network also allows you to interact with hundreds of coaches from all over the world, ranging from top NFL, NBA, and MLB coaches all the way to the grassroots level. You can ask questions, respond to popular threads, and get valuable insight from the best in the business. Strength Coach Network also covers career and business development tailored specifically for coaches. If you want a resume critique, need to get ready for an interview, or are looking for professional networking advice, go to strengthcoachnetwork.com/upside to get your first month at half price. That's strengthcoachnetwork.com/upside. Yeah, I'd say the Erg is a little more folded forward, and maybe the fan bikes are a little more sitting upright.
Yeah, I suck at cycling, but anyways.
Do you have a favorite fan bike? Whether it's, I know you have the Echo. Do you have the Airdyne? Do you have the assault bike?
I don't have an assault bike. I've used assault bikes.
How do they compare to the Echo?
I think the Rogue Echo bike is the best. the best bike. I like that it's belt driven.
Mm.
So like those chain driven bikes, when you stop pedaling, it'll keep going,
right? Which
isn't very safe when you're tired. Like I've seen a lot of people bail getting off the assault bike and getting, tripped up and scraping their shins because the pedals don't stop moving or whatever.
Mm.
And we have some old Schwinn Airdynes that I'm always worried about the kids when they're playing on them, like don't lose a finger or something, but the Echo bike just stops, which makes it harder because like always have to overcome that lack of momentum when you first start. But it's quieter.
Mm.
It's windier though, I think.
Okay.
And I got the model before I got the model before they had the wind guard, which would be really nice to have at this point. I hate the monitor though.
Oh,
I hate it.
What's wrong with it?
It's so
I guess once you're used to Concept 2, anything after that is hard to digest.
The PM5 is amazing. It's backlit. It has all of this programming, capability.
Mm.
But is the assault bike got a good monitor? No. Like they're all clunky. They're all. Yeah. I think the assault bike might have more ability to like program intervals better.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I haven't spent enough time on one. But you're really limited with what you can program on the Echo bike. And it's got this cheesy 3, 2, 1, 0 countdown before you start, which is so unnecessary. And I don't think you can turn it off. I love Rogue. Sorry, guys. But like the monitors hurting. Like I wish Concept 2 would just be monitor people for all of these things,
And they could just make monitors for all the tools and all the equipment.
Yes, exactly. Well, and on top of that, I don't think the bikes are necessarily calibrated equally across the map. Like, I don't think you should have competitions that use these bikes because I don't necessarily think they're going to read the same precision that the Concept 2 ones do. Like, we trust that a 2K on a rower where you are is going to be the same as a 2K rower where I am. Like you can compare those times. I've seen assault bikes with crazy watts versus someone else with less watts, same RPM average. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like I've never found consistency. So basically, if you want to compete with someone on the assault bike, it has to be the exact same bike to know if it's legit or not. You have to
switch back and forth if you want the exact same. Like, because I mean, and you see that, I guess the parallel would be with the drag factor and the damper setting on a rower, where it could have two rowers at a 5, yet depending on the age, the usage, the dust, all those things, you'll get different numbers on the drag factor, right? And that's bound to happen with
sea level, barometric pressure. Like there's so many factors that go into that specific data point.
Do you have out of the concept too? Do you have a favorite erg right now?
Like if I had to use one,
if you had to pick one between the rower, the ski, and the bike, tough choice.
It is a tough choice. I would probably be most inclined to row.
What if you could have two?
Like gun to my head, one rower.
Okay.
Oh, two? Oh, yeah. Row and ski. That's easy.
Row and ski.
So row and ski. Yeah.
Bike comes last.
Distant third.
Do you still?
I'm terrible at cycling. That's why.
Do you still hold the records on the?
Oh
on the
no!
ski?
Gosh, no. Have you heard of Jason Marshall?
Oh yeah, this guy's a this.
You
guy's
should
a
ask him.
Yeah.
Between him
Did he
and
take the
James,
half marathon too?
He took most of them. The only ones he doesn't have, James Hall has.
Right.
And who else? Well, I think James's brother Eddie has the 100 meters still.
Right, I remember that one.
No, the 30 to 39-year-old and open world records, I'm not touching those, especially my current level of fitness. So, no.
What about
no more.
the 40-49 once you pass the mark?
Okay, so I'll let you in on a secret.
Come on, I'll tell nobody.
I haven't looked at the records.
Okay.
For that age group yet, but I plan on it. And I mean, I'm gonna be 39 in a few weeks. So that gives me like one dedicated year to start training for the 40 to 49-year-old skier division. And if there are some records that are achievable, we'll work towards them. But I gotta look at that list because there's some monsters at that age group too. So we'll see. When
you're working towards a specific goal like that, how many dedicated sessions a week on that machine are you doing? And what does your training look like overall?
So as I'm sort of mapping out how I want to approach the Skierg stuff, because I think that's going to be my shift next year will be to that. I'll try and ski every day.
Okay.
But I also need to be lifting more because what I've learned is that to be good on the Skierg, you gotta be hella strong, man. The guys that are really pushing those times down and those distances are all ridiculously strong guys. James Hall's a beast, right? Jason Marshall's, I'm guessing James is stronger than Jason. Jason is just built different. And I think he's out in BC, right? So I think he's got that like mountain training at altitude benefit as well. I don't know. And there's another guy. Freddie. What's Freddie's last name? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Smolter? Freddie? I think he's in Europe somewhere. Okay. Maybe Finland? I don't know. He's going to hate me if I get that wrong. But he's like a former world bench press champion.
Oh, yeah?
Just, I know James makes fun of him because he's wearing a bench shirt. But whatever. You're still putting like, I don't know what he's benched, like 700 pounds maybe? It's something stupid. But he's a huge man. And he just rips this thing. And he's been training like his cardio and building up his volume. He's putting some ridiculous times out at distance too. And this is a guy that benches a whole lot of weight.
Yeah.
So I need to up my bench press, and I need to lift a little bit more, get a little bit stronger, and hopefully that will help as I layer in more volume on the Skierg. I'm also like, to get really good across all distances is tough, because you have to have a really balanced plan. And like, you've been on the program, so you know we have a lot of cycles happening at different times.
Exactly.
That try and work kind of into one another throughout the year, so we can kind of always be ready for any specific event at any time. So, you know, that balance is tricky. I know I'm never going to top these guys out on the short sprints. You know, it's never going to be my strength. So I'll just try and get as good as I can across the board and see if I can set some PBs along the way. And if it happens to be faster than other people, great. If not, then so be it. I'll at least update the PB board and be done with that.
How much of a rowing base did you have when you started skiing? And then how long did it take you from first ski workout to actually owning a couple world records?
Was probably rowing about a year and a half where like I was more of a focus.
Yeah.
And then I got the Skierg, maybe it was 2017, I don't even remember. 2018 maybe. I started to just play with it and try and get a feel for, okay, what rates make sense? Like, taking what I know from rowing in terms of pacing, how can we then do the same thing on the ski? Like, what's that look like? And we still have conflict and discussions and debates over this, like what rate is what
the debate?
Rate.
Put us up to debate.
The debate is, so just as an example, what is the equivalent 30-minute, or what's the equivalent 20 strokes a minute row on the Skierg?
Is it 40 or is it higher or lower?
I think it varies. So I was very like strongly in it's 40 ballpark for a few different reasons. One, the rowing stroke's about double the skiing stroke in terms of length. Like, I'm about 150 to 160 on the row, 1.5 meters, 1.6, and skiing I'm like 6'4". I'm 193 centimeters.
Okay, big fella.
I guess. Bigger than most.
Comes on the rower.
It does, I guess. I've heard that. And my skiing stroke, which isn't quite Nordic style. Like, if you watch Nordic skiers, they're very high cadence, very short. And if you watched, you know, early CrossFitters with this big long,
the butterfly,
who's holding ski poles up here. Oh, don't talk about that. But like this really long, like extended over your head, you know, no leverage to, you know, your ankles. Like, that's stupid. Like, I don't know why that's so much excess motion.
Right.
I'm like a forehead to like mid-thigh pocket range in terms of stroke length. Because if you know anything about the force curve and you look at the force curve on the monitor, right around here, when you get more of your weight transferring on top of those handles, is when you get peak force production. Now, that happens really early in the stroke. So reaching way up here doesn't make any sense, right? You don't have to. It's just a waste of movement.
Yeah, for those who are interested in digging more into that, I'm sure you still have it in your highlight stories on your Instagram.
Somewhere in the Skierg section.
Yeah, in the Skierg section, you have a whole series of stories that talk about looking at the monitor. What do you want to see on the curve, and how to read it.
Tool.
It is. It really is, and I really enjoyed those. So for people who ski and want to ski better, go check those out for sure. I'll let you continue.
So because of the stroke length being half, roughly doubling the stroke rate kind of made sense. Although doubling 30 becomes 60, and that's kind of excessive for a lot of distances, a lot of people. So what we found is that
What's the highest you go to on a ski yourself?
100. No, it depends. Like on like a 100-meter sprint, it'd be over 70,
Yeah.
pretty easy.
But on anything that you have to sustain, like a five.
My 2K was like 50 to 52 strokes a minute. 1K was like mid 50s, 56 to 58, I think. 5K might have been like mid 40s, 44, 45. But obviously lower from there. But I need to work on that. I'd love to be able to rate a little bit higher on the ski, take more of the pressure off the stroke. But anyways, so where on the rowing machine, 20 can kind of give you a specific range of splits, depending on how much force you're applying in your stroke. You can be a lot more subjective on the Skierg. So 40 it's a much larger potential range at that rate relative to the rowing machine.
Maybe because you have twice the you have
more length to play with. Yeah. And body weight, obviously more of a factor because of gravity. Your just general strength on top of that is more of a factor as well. So like the bigger and stronger you are, the lower you can rate effectively. Simply because you don't have to work as hard to pull like a 140 split, then you don't have to work as hard to pull a 140 split. And that's, this is why I think you're seeing a lot of really big, strong fellows with massive engines just absolutely crushing it, because they get so much horsepower. They need to work as hard to achieve those splits. And they have the motor behind it to back that up. So where a rate of 40 gives you a much larger range, you could easily do 40 with a really light, easy stroke for distance. You could also push it out for, and use it as sort of your race rate for anything like a 5K to a 10K. We're still trying to, the collective Skierg community are trying to sort out what is best, but I think the bigger and stronger you are, the lower you can rate effectively. And like on the rowing machine, the smaller or shorter you are, rate's your friend. Like you can rate yourself taller. And I think because you're not going to be able to apply the same amount of force per stroke with smaller stature, you need to take more strokes. And that's very true on the rowing machine, especially true on the Skierg.
One thing that I remember from training on the rower was that, like you said, you have to train to be able to sustain higher rates. I remember that I could I could not easily. I could row a 2K more comfortably row a 2K between 28 and 30. As soon as I hit 21, 31, 32, 33, that was it. I just blow, the engine would just go. What is that a factor of, and how do you get better at higher rates?
Well, you get better at higher rates by practicing higher rates. So
I saw that one coming.
using me as an example, I always struggled to hold higher rates for distance. Like you, it was much more comfortable to row like a 30-minute time trial at a lower rate, 20, 22, 24, compared to like trying to hold 28.
Yeah,
where you just blow up 10 minutes in. You're like, I can't do this.
Fun. I remember you at some point, I think, playing with longer, slower distances, but at higher rates nonetheless.
Oh, yeah.
And how did that work out for you?
Love it. I had PBs like crazy this year. I had a great first half of the season, half of this year, 10K PB, 30-minute PB, hour PB, half marathon PB, like everything that, funny how if you train specifically for something, you get better at it. But me putting in the time, working on holding and sustaining higher rates, and then gradually over time, now that I have the rhythm of that rate down and the breathing and the tempo and everything that goes along with moving at that rate, okay, now let's try and take the split down. And I was doing a lot of 10 and 12Ks like that.
Okay.
12K at rate 28, at least rate 28.
Yeah.
You know, if I held a like 149 pace, okay, let's see if I can hold 148 next time. Okay, let's see if I can hold 147. I think I was pulling sub 144 12K at like 30 strokes a minute. I was like, but at that point, I think this is early summer. At that point, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna program in 10K and see how I feel. And I'm also monitoring heart rate, right? Like I'm choosing these paces kind of on the fly based on how I feel and how my heart rate's responding. Like if I know I'm still 85%, well over halfway, I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm good. I can hold this. I could probably pick up at the end. I'm going to be able to sit at that 90% plus for a little bit of time, and it won't be a big deal. And at that point, doing 12Ks where I'm like 43 minutes in, just finished it, good pace, held a good rate, heart rate average wasn't that bad. Let's try a 10K. And I would program in 10K. And this was like exactly a year ago, I think. And if I felt okay, if the heart rate was cooperating and the pace was good, let's go for a personal best. I know what the target is.
How far into a 10K do you know whether you have a shot at a PB or not?
Oh, I knew 4K in. Like 4,000 meters in, I was like, I think I can do this today. Because, I don't know what my PB was before. It was just under 143 pace. I'd have to look at the board. So I started in the 143s for that first first half, and heart rate was great. I felt good. I didn't feel fatigue. I just felt like the fatigue of lungs from breathing. Legs felt strong. So 4K in, and as I'm hitting that third split, right, that third 2K split, like, all right, let's see if we can just drop this average down a little bit. And with 4K to go, I'm pretty comfortably pulling 142s. I'm like, this is it. We got this. We just got to hold this and keep going. So I think for me, at least all my distance stuff, I've known pretty early whether it's there or not that day. Even on the hour, I had pulled my hour PB in 2017 was like just over 17K. It was like a 144.8.9 pace, average pace, but at like really low rate. Like I struggled, and I remember struggling, like holding 22 strokes a minute for like 30 minutes, just hating life. And I remember I needed like a week off after that. It was awful. It was awful. And I hadn't done an hour since then. So this is like 3 years later where I finally felt, okay, I can do this. And I approached it with the same sort of approach for those 12Ks that I had. And I never really, I probably felt really tired with 10 minutes left. But at that point, it's like, I'm almost done. I feel good. And I think I improved by 150 or 200 meters PB wise. And then the half marathon I did in June for the solstice was about a 146 split. Same thing. Felt okay. Although at that one, I will say I was over 90% for the last half an hour. So I remember just thinking, you are so close. Like you've done so many 30-minute pieces. Like you can definitely do 30 minutes now. But I hate seeing 90% plus heart rate. I'm just not comfortable there. And maybe I need to do more work at that. But I remember that the last 30 minutes of that half marathon were ugly. I had the right playlist to get through that. But
I also had a number. I remember when I would see my heart rate pass, I forget what it was. I think it was maybe, and I remember that, comparing my heart rate to many people in the group, I was revving pretty high.
Don't do that.
I know, but I was always like, you were at like 160 on a given workout, and I was at 175, 180. I was like, what the fuck's going on? But I remember, I think it was 185. If I saw above 185 for 2 sets in a row, it would start to scare me, and often I would just kind of lose it there. But again, it's another thing that you can work on, right? Your awareness, being comfortable with certain zones is a big word, but just areas of intensity that you're putting out, and controlling your breathing, and all those different, or not, making sure your breathing does the right thing when you're at those high paces. I remember also the importance of strategy, even on a like 5K and higher especially, but how you get into the distance and not knowing it at first. I think the first time I did a 5K on the rower, I must have done I forget what it was, maybe a 1740 or something like that. And I literally redid it 3 days later, just kind of learning from my first bad execution. And I took 30 seconds off. Just knowing
pacing
how to
strategy. Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing how to pace, and also the rating. The first one I believe I rated way too high, and then I was at 27. There was no way I could hold that the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
And so
everyone's a champ that first 500.
Oh man, talk about it. I remember talking to you after, and you were like, "Oh, I'll try to rate it a little lower and maybe go 24, 25." And I did that, and it was great. How do you strategize for different distances?
I'm always of the mindset I want to feel confident at halfway. If I ever get halfway and I have that oh shit doubt creep in, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be good. And that's for a 1K, a 2K, it doesn't matter. Anything where you have to sit long enough to care, like a 500 is over really before you know it. Like, it's so fast and it hurts for most of it anyways, so it doesn't matter. But like, you're sitting down for a 1K or a 2K long enough where you have time to think and like rationalize and reason with yourself and have that inner dialogue where you don't want to feel shock or uncertainty or like mental discomfort when there's still more than half the race left, right? So I always try and pace it where I know I'll feel, or hopefully, shouldn't say I know, but hopefully I'll feel comfortable at half. And then if you feel confident and comfortable, not comfortable in the sense that like you can relax, but comfortable at your pace, confident that you can still sustain it, like that's what I'm talking about. Because the second half then becomes, you got this. It's way more positive. Your outlook is like, I can get faster on the second half, right? I can make up time on the second half. I'd rather have that feeling than the feeling of dread and suffering that would come if you come out too hot and then need to suffer through the back half. And I might have a different strategy live. I might have a different strategy racing people. I have always done this alone in my garage, right? And who wants to suffer alone in their garage when they don't have to, right? I think that mental sort of game is tough to overcome sometimes.
What's the soonest?
That's my pacing strategy.
What's the soonest you've stopped when going after one of your PBs? Just, I don't know, personal experience. I remember, I believe it was a 1K that I wanted to go for. And I believe I stopped 200 meters in. It just wasn't there. What's the soonest you've cut something short?
Off the top of my head, a minute into 1,000-meter ski. Just knowing there's still like 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Like, no, thanks. No, thank you. I don't want this today. I've cut a row off 500 meters in, like a 2K row, 500 meters in.
That's soon. That's early.
You see like 1498 meters ticking down. You're like, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
I have to do this for 1,500 more. The days where the meters are slow or the time is ticking by slow, like because you've probably had rows where you sort of zone out, and then when you look at the time or the thing, you're like, oh, we're getting closer, right? I love those. I love those days when that was already 700 meters. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's zone out again, right? Where are we going to be on the next time we kind of come back to reality? I love those rows, but yeah, early, fairly soon. And sometimes, in warm-ups,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you program the stupid monitor anyways. And then you quit, and like you knew you were going to quit, but you did
Yeah.
it anyways. I
Yeah.
hate that. That's
I
probably
had
the worst.
I had a really good warm-up routine set up where I had 4 minutes, 1 minute off, 3 minutes, 1 minute off, 2, then 1. And then I would do a bunch of shorter sprints and then a bit more. I just had it all, kind of down pat. And I knew exactly what pace I should see on the monitor on each 4, 3, 2, 1 minute. And then what I could pull on like a heavy 10 stroke. And that would, like you said, you knew, I knew right from the end of the warm up how that session was going to be. Am I easy on the warm up, or is it really a drag to get the numbers that I usually want to see? And so how would you recommend people modify their workouts given how they feel or what they see in the warm up? Because that's probably more accurate than just waking up and being like, I feel good or not.
Well, don't choose the thing you'll fail at. Right? Like the one bonus to having I think we have company. No, maybe not. The one bonus to having a lot of training options in terms of like programming is you can start to see like how you feel. Oh, you getting a delivery?
No, it's running.
Oh, you can start to kind of get a sense of how you feel during your warm up, and then be like, okay, today's not a good day for 500 meter repeats. Today's a much better day for a steady state 10K. And you make that adjustment in your mind and you do it. So you have to have the intelligence and I'm trying to think of a better word. Yeah, but not just like the flexibility, but like the mindset to be okay with it. Because I think a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this all the time, where you had an original plan, you went out, you're like, I'm going to row like 8 500s today. I'm going to warm up, and even if I feel bad, I'm going to do it anyways. And I think now, some people get into it and do great, right? That might be a PB on the session.
I hate those people.
Or you have to quit after 4, right?
Right.
And you never really know till you get into it. But I think just being okay with being flexible and making changes on the fly when I've done that during a session all the time, where I'm going out at a certain pace and I'm feeling okay at like 30 minutes at a certain rate, and I need to back off the split. I need to make this a heart rate piece. I can't hold this pace. Like I might start out at a low rate tempo, and I'm just going to hold the same pace throughout and just let the heart rate just have that nice rise over time. And I might hit 80% and think, yep, no, not today. I'm just going to back off and just hold that heart rate and just make this a steady state piece. I've done that plenty. So like I said, I think you need to be okay with that, because for a lot of us and people in the group and people that train at home, you do this for fun. You do this for enjoyment. And if you're training in a way that's making you angry and upset, and you need to make adjustments or readjust your plan on the fly and be okay with it.
Yeah, I think what you said is really important. Being okay with not always being at 100%. You can't control all the factors around you. You got, personal life, you got a professional life, you got a mind of a human that's always buzzing a million miles an hour left and right. And some days
absolutely,
it's just not in the cards. Maybe take the last few minutes here to talk about, the great community that you've built over time, the programs that you offer, the Facebook group. Because for me, it was really, I spent, I believe, 8 or 9 months following your rowing program, and a ton of progress, not only in the numbers, but just in the way that I move, in the way that I understand the machine. and, like I said before, getting back on the biker program now. So maybe for those who might have an erg at home or at the gym and need some structure, what is your programming like?
Okay, well, we can talk about what programs we do have. So we have for online members, which is basically a monthly subscription. You have access to an indoor rowing program, a Skierg program, a biker program, a fan bike program, which you could use really any fan bike for. We have an ergathlon program. So if you happen to have a rower, a skier, and a bike, you can use all three in combination in our ergathlon plan. And we have a GPP fitness plan, which includes right now 3 GPP workouts that incorporate at least one of the ergs or fan bike, and then 2 running specific workouts that can be completed either on a track or a treadmill if you have one. And that's for our members. They have access to all of them. So even if you only have a rower or a skier, quiet boys. Oh man.
We got company.
Yeah. All of a sudden, if you have only one, doesn't matter. You can just follow that plan. A lot of the people have more than one machine at their disposal. So, they work either with me or in communication with the rest of the group on how to best sort of balance that out. The training cycles change throughout the year. On our website in the FAQs, there's a year map that basically outlines the full year by cycle for each machine or each program. So if you aren't sure when the 5K rowing cycle is, you can see it on that map and how that compares to some of the other cycles or programs on the other machines. And we try and balance intensity and what our focus is on throughout the year. So it's not like we're doing, okay, it's 2K row, 2K ski, and 4K biker cycle now, guys, where you can't do that. Like, we try and balance our intensity and our focus as much as it is possible across all of the machines. That's the tricky part of programming for the group, because you want people to obviously peak at certain times, but have opportunities to peak at certain times on different things in a 52-week cycle, right? As a macro cycle. So that's the sort of tricky puzzle for those that have multiple ergs. So it's for them, it's like picking and choosing what their focus is. When it's indoor rowing sort of race season, which we're in right now, most people are in our current 2K rowing cycle. There's also a 5K and Tour de Skierg cycle going on right now to prepare for the February Tour de Skierg. And our schedule sort of mirrors the events that Concept 2 has. So the World Sprints for rowing is in March. The Tour de Skierg, the indoor rowing World Sprints is in March. The Tour de Skierg is in February. July is now when the Biker 4K sprint is, and the Skierg 1K sprint is in November. So there's we have cycles that prepare for those specific things. We'll have a bit of a CrossFit Open specific prep and lead up for the Open this year, which is now in March and only 3 weeks long. So we had to kind of delay that a little bit. And then eventually I want to kind of get more specific with the running and kind of blend that in to it as well. So that's for the members. We also have digital plans or downloadable plans available as well, which people can buy. They have the program as a PDF file they can use whenever they want. And obviously if they need any guidance or assistance, I'm a Instagram or email message away, and I'm always open to assist people or help people understand if they have questions about a specific workout or pacing or want some feedback. I'm always available as well. So we have the subscription membership, and we have some standalone or downloadable plans, which kind of are always sort of growing. I've had some time, been able to add a few more this year. or at least this winter. So I'm currently working on the version 2.0 of the DAD plan.
The dad plan. What's the dad plan?
Which is the DAD plan is an indoor rowing program. It's a 2K program that takes into consideration a lot of parents only have like 30 to 45 minutes to get in some quality work. So it kind of like it takes the important parts of training for the 2K and kind of condenses it. So we take out the long, slow volume, we shorten that up a bit, and we add in some sprint intervals and some stroke power development stuff. But again, this is all stuff that can be done in less than an hour, 4 days a week for 12 weeks. And, that was kind of written out of need for myself, where I don't have a lot of time. I want to train for these specific races. So that's kind of where that name came from and that program came from. So just working on a newer version or an updated version of that.
Yeah. Well, speaking from experience, Justin, I can tell everybody listening that all those plans are fantastic. The community, like I said already, is outstanding. And
I didn't even talk about that. So so access to our Facebook group.
Yeah.
And not everyone has Facebook. So we have people that get email delivery, which is fine. But the Facebook group is the sort of primary place where the program is delivered and people interact and people post results, and I can comment and we can all be supportive of each other. And it's the best part of what we do, to interact with people around the world and share in our training efforts with one another, compare notes. I mean, we have that shared understanding. A lot of us are parents, a lot of us are working, a lot of us are younger and older, and it's a great mix of people that all look at the same monitor every day, right? And understand what goes into that. So it's a beautiful group with great people. We also had the fortunate opportunity to have the developers of Ergs, which is a new app specific for the Concept 2 machines.
Okay.
That they developed while kind of working in our group. It's now available for download in the App Store, Google Play Store, and people get the workouts there, and they're pre-programmed in. So if your phone's connected to it and you select your workout from the app, it'll program the monitor for you.
That's really
Kicks
cool.
out a lot more data than the PM5 does.
Okay.
Similar data to Erg data, that app from Concept 2, but more, there's more. They have some heart rate monitoring stuff that's cool, with some color zone rings. Yeah. Which, if you like, just trying to make all green circles, it's pretty addictive. They have a percentage of 2K pace category. So if you're working at like 90% of your 2K pace or 110% of your 2K pace, it's that. You can track watts there as well, which I feel like I'm going to start tracking more. I think watts are going to be my new metric, because 1 watt improvement is still improvement. It sure is. And it takes a lot less effort to improve by 1 watt than like 1 second. So, or 1/10 or whatever, right?
You gotta take what you can.
Exactly. Small bites. But it's a great app, and it's a lot easier for people that don't necessarily like the programming of the PM5 to have all that sorted, and all of the rowing, Skierg, and biker programs are there. And I think eventually what I want to do is have our digital download programs available to purchase through there as well. So instead of having the PDF file, you would just have access to the program through their app exclusively there instead. They're also gonna have, it's a great platform because we'll be able to run some competitions through it as well. So the same way you run like if you've ever competed online in Road Royalty or the Row Series or whatever, they use platforms like Throwdowns or whatever, but you would have to manually enter your score and whatnot. Competitions through Ergs will be, you have the app, you go to the competition or you sign up for it, pay your fee or whatever, and then the workout's posted, you select it, it programs a monitor for you, you compete, your score gets uploaded through the app directly onto the leaderboard, and the leaderboard will all be there. So the whole thing will be housed on that app for
That's
the
really cool,
competition.
man.
And, my hope, we're actually hoping to do a multi-erg one for November of this year, but between COVID and changing stuff at school, teaching, it was just too stressful. The last thing I want to do is try and plan a competition
It's a
in
lot.
the middle of that. So I'm hoping to run one in August, and it'll be a competition where athletes will have to use all 3 machines. So there'll be rowing events, Skierg events, and bike erg events, all collected into one leaderboard. So we'll see how that goes, but that's kind of in the works for summer of 2021. Probably August is what I'm looking at.
Where can people find you on the social, Justin?
At Garage Athlete on Instagram primarily. I would say Twitter, but I don't tweet. But my Instagram does upload to Twitter, so you can find me there, I guess. On Facebook, if you want to look me up, Justin Farina, or at my website, garageathletefitness.com. There's a message thing at the message box at the bottom. My email's there as well. So Instagram's probably the easiest, as it's the one I frequent the most.
Awesome. Well, I'll link all those in the show notes for people to go check it out. Guys and gals, if you're looking for an erg program of any kind, please go check out what Justin does. It's amazing work. And like we said multiple times, the community is really the differentiating factor. Thanks a lot for coming on, man.
Appreciate it, Sean. Thanks. I'm glad we finally got to do this. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So big thank you to everyone who tuned into this episode. Like we said, make sure you follow Justin on Instagram at Garage Athlete. Check out his programs and his membership community as well. And I just want to finish by saying thank you to our sponsor for this episode. You can go to strengthcoachnetwork.com/upside to get 50% off your first month. And we'll see you soon for the next episode. Take care, guys.